If you take a look at Twilight Princess speedrunning, it's quite different from any other speedrun out there. First of all speedruns are done on either the GameCube version or the HD version, but mysteriously not the Wii version. Second of all, no speedruns are completed on the Japanese version when you play the GameCube version, which is quite strange as well because most games in the Zelda franchise are speedrun on the Japanese version due to the text being much faster. So why is that? Why is Twilight Princess such an odd case where one version is completely forgotten about, and why Japanese is never ran to begin with, even by Japanese runners? Well, today I'm going to be breaking down Twilight Princess and kind of just go over the main glitches in the game and why specific versions are used, and why it is so strange and how Nintendo unintentionally patched the biggest glitch on the Wii version. So, the first thing I want to do is go over the main glitches that is used, the biggest sequence breaks and the biggest glitches on the GameCube version. And those are 3 glitches. The first one is back in time. Back in time, simply put, is a glitch that allows you to go back in time. So, how is this performed and why is this useful? Well, there are 2 ways you can reset a game. It's known as a hard reset or a soft reset. One is based upon the console actually restarting, hard reset, harder reset. And one is soft reset or softer reset. That's when you either press the reset button on a GameCube or a Wii, or you hold in Start, B, and X, and it puts you back to the title screen, basically as to the beginning of how the game is when it boots up originally. Now, a glitch that exists in both Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword is known as back in time. Basically, if you void out and you perform a soft reset on the exact same frame, so both events takes place at the same time, the game is going to know that it should put you back to the title screen because you performed a soft reset. However, because you also voided out, it knows that you're supposed to spawn back in from voiding out. And if both of these actions take place on the exact same frame, it's not actually going to clear out a memory that you just voided out and you're supposed to spawn back in. So what ends up happening instead is you spawn back in the title screen just like from a void out, but unfortunately you have the title screen properties right now with the logo being up, and if you press A, you're going to end up getting the file, like the title select screen to come up. But what you can do now is you can just jump down into the void to void out again. And now you're just voiding into an area or spawning into an area without a soft reset, which means you can now simply just save this onto the file slot number 1, which actually gives you all of the items and all of the different things that the file select link had unlocked in the game, which includes, for example, Epona, the sword, the shield, the tunic. So it basically skips all of the early game sequences thanks to doing this glitch. The other main thing too is the long jump attack glitch. The long jump attack glitch is one of those glitches that is used all the way throughout the GameCube speedrun and the HD speedrun, and it works in both versions. And simply put, how this works is it's abusing the mechanic known as a long jump attack. If you target an enemy that's far away from you and you press the A button, you will do a jump attack, but you will do it much further than if you were just holding target and pressing jump. And this is so that you can reach enemies by targeting enemy and pressing A that's slightly further away from you. But we can abuse this because you can get almost a double amount of speed if you target an enemy that's further away from you. So what you want to do here in this situation is you want to target the Gale Boomerang or just throw it. And what you want to make sure of is that you don't leave this target camera of the game basically being in this target camera of the boomerang. What you don't want to do is you want to make sure that 1 out of 3 criteria are met. A, the boomerang is on a surface higher than where Link is standing, which can be performed by, for example, targeting to make sure that it's flying on an area like that. 2 is that it's over a void, because then there's no ground underneath and it will always, if the boomerang is further away from you, give you full speed. Or C, that it's out of bounds, because then it kind of falls into the void perspective and there's no ground underneath, so if it's far away enough, you're going to get the full speed. And that allows you to reach a bunch of areas early. For example, you can jump across the bridge right here to get to a brand new area. Or in the HD version, you can jump onto these monkey platforms you're not supposed to access and get to the boss key, or the boss room, I should say, much faster. And the last and final glitch is something known as early Master Sword. Early Master Sword is done by doing a very precise jump while targeting one of these dark beasts. And if you angle this perfectly, you can actually land onto this wall, and by so, you can then carefully maneuver out of bounds jump in a bounce back to the platform way out in the distance, which actually leads to the Master Sword. And you can reach this area while you're collecting the first tiers, the first tier collection, which means you can get it before even beating a single dungeon, which is pretty amazing in the speedrun, especially on the GameCube version. Now, where do all of these kind of versions differ, and why specifically does only some versions get used? Well, first off, the Wii version. Why did Nintendo unintentionally patch the biggest glitch and make the Wii version unusable? Well, that's because of motion controls. Yes, we all love it, and it ruined speedrunning for TP on the Wii version. So, remember how I mentioned that if you target something or the Gale Boomerang and you jump slash under those 3 criteria, one of these 3 criteria being met, you will get a long jump attack, and you can do basically crazy jumps. Well, when you pull out your sword on the HD version, even if you're targeted, because of how it's changed with using the motion controls, it will basically perform like a slash. And because the pulling out sword animation works differently, it takes you out of target, which means that because you're not targeted, you can't actually stay targeted on the Gale Boomerang and do the long jump attack glitch. So simply by just implementing a different sword mechanic for motion controls to work, they unintentionally patched out the biggest glitch for the Wii version. Now, why does this not affect the HD version, you might be asking? That's a later release of the game. Well, that's because the Wii version, unlike the HD version is actually based upon the GameCube release because it's using a controller, which means that the long jump attack glitch is implemented once again, because the only reason it was patched was due to the differences in how motion controls worked. So thanks to it being based on the GameCube version, you now unintentionally have all of the glitches already implemented back into the game. Now the last thing, and I didn't really go too much into this, but why do we not speedrun on the Japanese version at all? Well, that is because unlike most games in this generation on the GameCube, they would come out earlier in Japan, then North America, and then Europe. But Twilight Princess was slightly different, because Twilight Princess was a launch game for the Wii, and it was released in limited quantities for the GameCube since they wanted to push Wii sales. And in Japan, you could only get the GameCube version of Twilight Princess through a specific Nintendo program with rewards, and it was basically sent through mail only. And because of this version was actually a later build, meaning that they actually patched one glitch out, which works in both the GameCube version for the European and the North American copy. And that is a glitch known as map glitch. Simply put, if you unplug your controller and you hold the button for the map and for talking to Midna and you plug the controller back in, what is going to happen is it's going to perform both of those inputs on the exact same frame. So map and talking to Midna. And the map is going to take priority right here. So then you can open up the map, you can click on, hey, yes, I want to warp to a location, and then it should warp you away. But because both inputs were done on the same frame, instead of warping you away when you select that you want to warp away, it's going to bring up a Midna text box, which cancels the warp. And this has some strange oddities. For example, in this state, you can't go through loading zones properly, and you also can't void out, which means that you can actually access Snow Peak early because you can't get voided out by the mist. And you also use this in another case where you want to basically skip a lot of stuff when you want to enter Arbiter's Ground by going out of bounds and jump slashing underneath the map, which would normally void you out because you're just falling underneath the map for a very long time. But because you can't void out, you're not going to actually void out. And then you can just get picked up by the cutscene and get placed into the room you're supposed to be. Because most cutscenes, in generally, actually has a barrier that extends infinitely upwards and downwards. Or not infinitely, but a very far distance. Meaning that the cutscene trigger extends so far down that it can pick you up into the actual cutscene room. And by so, they unintentionally made it so that the Japanese version is not great. However, all the other glitches that we really use in the speedrun does work in a Japanese version, so it is better than the Wii version. And when you want to compare the GameCube version to the HD version, the speedruns are really not that different. They did add an invisible wall so you can't do early Master Sword because you can't jump up on the wall, and you also cannot soft reset on a Wii U, so you can't do back in time. So that does add some early game sequences, specifically right in the beginning of the game, beating Dungeon 1, and also doing a little bit more through Dungeon 3. But other than that, it's basically the same with how many sequence breaks you can do, so it only adds about 20 minutes to the speedrun, clocking one in at about 3 hours and one in at about 3 hours and 15 minutes, so it's really not that big of a difference overall. But that is how Nintendo unintentionally made Twilight Princess one of the strangest speedruns, where Japanese is one of the slowest versions, and how they unintentionally patched a glitch in the Wii version to make it completely obsolete for speedrunning. But without further ado, hope you do enjoy this video. This is a bit of a strange video, and a bit different from what I usually make, when I kind of just sit down and kind of just talk some speedrunning nonsense of just kind of going off of some fun facts that I have, because I do love to research speedrunning. So if you would like to see more videos like this, where I kind of just sit down and just talk about glitches or in general a speedrun, feel free to let me know down in the comment section. I'll definitely be up for making another one of these in the future. But yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, and don't forget to check out my Twitch channel to see speedruns live. And I'll see you all in the next one. Later, everybody. Bye-bye.